Join me on the next episode of Quarantined with Lavell, where I'll be talking to Mr. David Mosley from Mosley Consulting about financial freedom. No, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme, but Mr. Mosley is going to teach us some practical steps on what we can do to secure our financial freedom and go forth and do what God has called us to do because we're free financially. You don't want to miss this episode. Thursday, July 16th at 6:30 p.m. on the Kneel Down Productions Facebook group page and on the YouTube channel LNeil23. Join me and Mr. Mosley as we talk candidly about finances and put some steps into place where you can be practical in your life and have financial freedom on the next Quarantine with Lavell. All right, sorry about that. I was muted there. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Quarantined with Lavell. I truly appreciate you joining us. And listen, if you can believe it, this is already our 10th episode, and we have had some phenomenal episodes and some phenomenal guests. And I truly appreciate it. I started off interviewing the cast of my first play, Issues of Blood, and we had a wonderful time with that. We interviewed my pastor and associate pastors of my church, and I interviewed J. Will Music from Inspire God's People. I interviewed Pastor Chioke Bracey. On down the line, I interviewed Pastor Emery Moss from Strictly Biblical Bible Teaching Ministries. I interviewed Apostle Bobby Bracey, Bishop Michael Jones, and Judge Donald Coleman about race in America, which actually prompted these next few episodes because I wanted to make sure that what they said about race in America and race in the church was heard. And one of the things they always that they continue to say, well, two major things. One was the power to vote. So last week's episode, I interviewed two people, Taylor Harrell, who's running for state representative District 2 here in Michigan, and also Rebecca Coleman, attorney Rebecca Coleman, who's running for judge of 32A District Court. So you can check out those episodes on kneeldownproductions.com. You can click on the vote tab, and you can also, I have links there where you can register to vote if you're not. If you're not sure, I have links there that you can check to make sure that you're registered to vote, because there is power in voting. Another thing that the three of them said was the power to have financial freedom. That prompted this episode here, where I'm going to be talking to Mr. David Mosley from Mosley Consulting about financial freedom. So what I'm going to do is I am going to forego my normal opening monologue because I want to give Mr. Mosley ample time to lay out what he's going to teach us. And I'm going to have my pad and my pen with me as well to take notes, because I want to make sure that I learn what he's talking about. He was so gracious to join me, and I truly, truly appreciate him. And I am going to bring him on now, Mr. David Mosley from Mosley Consulting. Mr. Mosley, we appreciate you being with us, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lavell. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man. It's truly, I cannot even describe how much of an honor it is for you to be here.
Yeah, this is important dialogue. I mean, I was excited when you started talking about it. It's something that people need to hear, particularly our people, as we talked about earlier. And I just think, hey, let's talk to the folks about it. Like you said, it's a fireside chat. Let's talk about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, again, I'm excited, and I definitely appreciate you being here. If you all are out there watching right now, please make sure you hit that share button. We want to make sure that this word gets out. I know my lovely wife, I got to give her a shout out. She is definitely one who helps me pick topics for the show, and to help me even contact people for the show and suggestions. So, LaKenya, I love you, sweetheart. I appreciate you. My mom is watching as well. My uncle is watching on YouTube, and we have some other people watching on YouTube, a bunch of people watching on Facebook, and I appreciate you all. But we want this word to go out. So just take a quick second and hit that share button at the bottom and make sure that this word gets out so that we can have a plethora of people watching to learn from Mr. Mosley. So, Mr. Mosley, again, thank you for coming on the show. And let's just start off by you giving us a little bit of history about yourself and your company, Mosley Consulting.
Okay, so, I always like this question, Lavell.
Okay.
Because anytime you go to a cocktail party or anything like that, people will say, what do you do? And get all this kind of feedback, right? And everyone has these wonderful credentials and things to share. And it's really nice to share that, but I try to shy away from it, because in the field of what I do, I can talk about, hey, I went to Michigan, my background is business and psychology. And I can talk about all the wonderful things I've done. I'm a master, certified with Dave Ramsey Group. But when it's all said and done, people want to really know, how can you help me? Right? Because the people are the stars of this show. When we think about the show being financial freedom. So I always like to tell members, I'm not the star of the show. I'm like that Yoda character, right? I'm the coach. I'm the one that's just kind of inspiring you, but I'm not the star. You're the star. So that's the first thing we have to remember. So I don't get caught up on all the titles and all the, what you've done and everything like that. It's important, but the most important thing is, how can we help people? Yes. So a little bit about me. I always say that I help families, and I have renewed their relationship with their money. And I would say renew the relationship with their money, but more importantly, restore the relationship. It's just like money is a relationship, just like any other relationship. So it's important that we renew and we restore. The scripture talks about the renewing of the mind.
Yes, sir.
So it's important when you think about finances that we renew and we restore. And so I believe following the principles that God had outlined for us, and I use him as a guide, and I ask him to guide my footsteps anytime I'm interacting with people or giving them advice. So again, I'm a proud Michigander. I'm a Michigan Wolverine. I have two beautiful daughters, Taylor and Tiara. Taylor and Tiara both just graduated, one from Michigan, the other one from Michigan State. So we have that fun house divided thing going on. I spent 34 years in corporate America doing, many senior leadership roles. So 34 years dealing with people and hearing all types of issues, which really prompted me to get into this field, because as I spent time talking to people, and I did a stint heading up the HR department and seeing people's wages get garnished and seeing them upset, coming to work upset about different things. And you find out it really didn't stem with an issue with their boss. It stemmed with issues at home. And most of the issues were financial. And these are folks making really good money. So I spent a lot of time talking to folks, giving them advice around different things. And it kind of led its way as I got out of the corporate world to move over into this field. I don't want to forget my little pup Bandit. So I got a 6-year-old pup Bandit. He's a Maltese Shih Tzu mix.
Okay.
Very extremely smart, and I just love Bandit. He brings us a lot of joy around here in the house.
Awesome.
So one of my business slogans, my main business slogan is taking your dreams further than you imagine. So when I talk to clients, I really want to take their dreams further than they imagine. And then I have a catchphrase that I try to keep in front of them. No wasted days. Hashtag no wasted days. You know, just don't waste days. Don't waste time. Don't waste money. But I really want them to capture that we don't have any wasted days. We have to be about our Father's business all the time. And it really helps feed our family and it feeds our soul.
Yes,
and those that are seriously considering getting on this path, I just ask them to do 3 things. And the acronym is FAD. I need them to be faithful. I need them to be available. And I need them to be teachable. So that's a little bit about who I am in a nutshell.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was just adding onto Facebook that hashtag. I like that. So help us out, y'all. Go ahead and hashtag no wasted days.
Absolutely.
I love that. No wasted days. Okay, so before we get into financial freedom, let's go ahead and first of all, let's define our terms. What does it mean to be in debt? Because I think when people hear debt, you know, we think we're always going to owe somebody something. We're going to always owe DTE. We're always going to owe a water bill. So you can never really be out of debt. So go ahead and define for us, what does it mean to be in debt?
So the first thing we do is separate the difference between household expenses.
Okay.
So you have household expenses where this is your light bill, your gas bill, the typical household expenses, insurance that you have to pay. But debt is anything that you actually owe someone. So you think about student loans, you think about credit cards, you think about vehicles that you own, you think about your mortgage. Those are debts. Okay, so we separate normal household expenses away from debt. And what I always think about, I go back to this, and I had this highlighted. I'm going to look at this because I always think about Proverbs 22:7. And the NIV version talks about the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Right? That's coming from our Lord. And being a Ramsey preferred coach, Dave Ramsey talks about this all the time. And when Dave said he was confronted with the scripture, that scripture, he had to really consider who was right between his broke finance professor who taught that debt is a tool versus God, who has never had anything positive to say about debt.
Wow. Yeah. and it's, I think it's worded specifically that way to cause a certain reaction. You
Absolutely.
know, the borrower is slave to the lender, you know, and it's a reality. I was a slave. I was just sharing with you right before we went on the air. I was a slave to student loans for a decade, and I just think
no more. Congratulations, no more.
Sir, completely paid off my student loans. This year, actually, a couple months ago, back in I think it was April, paid those off. So I know what it is to be a slave to a lender. Okay, so
we've all been there.
Yes, sir. Okay, so we define what it means to be in debt. So define what it means to have financial freedom. Does that mean that I'm going to be a multi-billionaire sitting back on a yacht and sipping my drink and flying wherever I want to, whenever I want to? Is that what financial freedom is?
To some.
Okay.
But the way I would define financial freedom is owing no one, you know, just owing no man, because you're no longer a slave. You have your money, and your money can grow and build for you. You don't have to give any money away to anyone. And then actually being able to do the things that you want to do without having any pressure or feeling like, oh, when I come back, I got a debt to pay or I got a bill to pay. No, you don't have any debt. You don't have any bills. You have generational wealth that you're building. You have cash. And I always talk about liquid. It's important to just have that liquid, so you're not dependent on credit cards. You're not dependent on loans. You're not dependent on taking money out your 401k, but you're comfortable and your money's growing every day.
Yes, sir. So before we get, I do want you to go into a little bit about the acronym FAT that you use. And I remember when you sent that to me, I read that and I was like, oh wow, the Bible talks about us, that we'll eat the good of the land. So I really love the acronym FAT. But before we go into that and let you just kind of go, I did want to give a few statistics about the financial state of people in this country. And I think when I read them, they shocked me. I know they've shocked you. Hopefully they shocked others as I read some of these. And then I know you have even more, and I want you to kind of go into those.
Okay.
But people, listen to this. Listen to this. 80% of people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck. That not only startled me, but it hurt my feelings. 80%. That means if you lined up 10 people, 10 of your friends, 8 of them are living paycheck to paycheck.
Wow, that's right.
The second one is 52% of people in this country have less than $10,000 saved up for retirement. You cannot live off of that when you retire. But over half of the people in this country only have $10,000 or less saved up for retirement. And then this one, you even shared with me, this number may have went up, but at the time when I heard it, 39% of people in this country cannot cover a $400 emergency. So if a $400 emergency comes up, if your head gasket blows, that's easily $400 or more.
At least, yeah.
Most people cannot cover that. 40%, almost 40% of people cannot cover that. So what do? They bust out the credit card, swipe it, right? I remember. Let me share this with you, Mr. Mosley, real quick. I remember I was sharing with somebody when I first got my first credit card. I was I can't remember exactly, somewhere around 18, 19, somewhere in there. And they happened to give me that credit card 3 weeks before Christmas. I didn't know that was a marketing strategy. I didn't know what an APR was. I didn't know. I did not understand any of this. So, Mr. Mosley, that Christmas, that Christmas, I was Santa Claus. My card was swiping like a ninja. I literally was out there just swiping. Everybody had a gift.
You get a car. You get a car.
Exactly. Right. And I remember now that particular car, and maybe I'm sharing too much, but I feel like it needs to be said.
Yeah.
I had several cards, but one particular card I had charged up. The limit was $25,000. I owed $28,000 on one card, and I didn't have anything to show for it except a movie case full of DVDs that I bought. But everything else was eating out, going to the movies, just kind of splurging, buying stuff, and it kept going up. It kept going up, and they would what they would do is they would raise my my limit, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going any higher than that. And then I would ease up to it, and then I would request that they hire it more, and it kept going like that. It was really when looking back, it was a very, very horrible time in my life, and I didn't know. I didn't understand, but at one point, my payments for that car ranged between $600 and $700 a month, and maybe $100 of that was going toward the principal.
Yeah. So
I was in big trouble, but thank God I did. My pastor actually suggested that my wife and I. Well, she was my girlfriend at the time, but my pastor knew I was going to propose to her, and so she suggested as a part of our marital counseling that we go through the Dave Ramsey course, and we did. And I ended up that card now is paid off and cut up.
All right.
I got a few more cards I'm working on, but they're nowhere near. If you combine the few cards I have now, they're still not even half of that amount that I owe. So thank God for that. But those statistics startled me, and they hit me in the face because they were real. So I'm going to just kind of let you go ahead and talk about, some more statistics, and you can go into the acronym FAT and just kind of go however you feel like.
So on that point that you just made, I mean, I hope everybody's really listening, because we have a tendency sometimes not to realize when we see a commercial and Samuel Jackson's on and he's looking cool and he says, "What's in your paycheck? What's in your wallet?" Right? What's in your wallet? So then we go, "Oh man, we got to get a credit card. That's, we need to get a credit card because that's what people do." And how did we get here? So when we backtrack and think about how did we get here, it depends on what your education level was, what your parents' education level was when it comes to money. Not just regular education, but finances. So if we're taught and we watch growing up, if you think about our great-great-grandparents, they wouldn't even think about having a credit card, right? And then our grandparents would come along and they would say something like, "I'm only going to use this card for an emergency situation." And they had the discipline to only use that credit card for that purpose. Then the next generation came on, and they thought they had the same discipline, but we didn't.
Right.
So we use the credit card, like you just stated before, until you get to a point where all your wealth is going to someone else, a financial institution. And because everyone else is doing the same thing, you believe that that's normal. Right. So I always ask people, have you ever went to the circus and you see that little elephant in the circus that's chained to the little stake in the ground? He's little at that point. Then you go a year later to the same circus, you see that same elephant is fully grown and he's still chained to that little stake in the ground. So my question is, can he not pull that stake out the ground?
Wow.
Of course he can. So why does he not do that? Because he's been conditioned to think a certain way. That's what happens with us. They're conditioning us to think that this is normal. And it's really not normal. It's abnormal.
Yeah.
So let's get into that. So what I want to talk about is, I got 4 introduction points, agenda topics, I should say.
Okay.
I want to talk about the importance of this FAT, being faithful, available, and teachable. I want to share a few stats, maybe about 6 stats. You shared some excellent stats earlier. And then I want to talk about a nerd and a free spirit analogy.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about impulse shopping awareness and proper money management. And then I'll get into what we call the 4 walls. And in the 4 walls, we'll talk about the difference between needs and wants. And then we'll get into the 7 baby steps, which is the process that we follow.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll have closing comments. If you have anything, feel free to jump in at any point.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is that all right?
That sounds good to me.
All right. So according to the U.S. Census, this is some more stats. So Lavell already had you almost falling out your chair. I'm sure many of you are almost falling out the chair right now.
Yeah.
But I'm going to push you right over.
Wow. So
the average American household has an income of $60,000. That's what the average American household income is, $60,000. So here's some points. The average American household savings is between $5,000 to $16,000. Okay, so this is data that's used for ages ranging between 35 to 70. And the data for those under 35, listen to this, of ages under 35, their average savings is about $1,600. So I want everybody to think about whether you're over 35 or not, but just think about, what do you have in your checking account, your savings account? What do you have saved? Right now, do you have $1,600 you can put your hands on? Not for an answer, just for you to answer and to think about what Lavell was saying earlier. We have to change our mentality. Then we look at the average American household has credit debt, excluding their personal home. So not talking about your home, but just credit debt. Most families have 5 to 7 credit cards. So I'm thinking about, you got to include your Home Depot cards and your Victoria's Secret cards and all those things. They got about an average of 7 credit cards with balances between $6,900 to $8,000. $6,900 to $8,000. Wow. These numbers tend to rise before and during after major holidays, like Lavell just talked about what happened to him. They market to us around Thanksgiving and Christmas time. That's the time when everybody's we're all feeling good. We're feeling like we want to do things for people, and we don't have any problem with spending money. And they know this. And you never have an impact when you're spending plastic versus money. So Lavell, I didn't have this in the slide, but I want to throw this out here. When you go to a restaurant and they give you that little plastic plate and you pay for your bill and you put the plastic credit card on there, they take it, they scan it, they bring it back to you. You don't feel any pain from that on what you spend. You may have a bill that's $200, but you didn't feel that pain. Now, conversely, if they were to come to you with that same plastic plate and you had to put cash, you pull cash out, 100, 200, and you see it there and they take it away and they come back with $3. That has an impact on you because you felt that. I just gave them $200 and they brought me $3 back.
Wow. Right.
That's what plastic does for us. And that's why we need to think about operating in liquid and cash, because it makes us think. Plastic doesn't make us think.
Right.
The average American student loan debt is approximately $39,000. And Lavell, congratulations to you for being one of the few that's debt, that's actually no more student loans.
Thank God.
And those who are working on it continue to work on this, because that average number, $39,000, I'm sure we can all think about something else we could have done with $39,000.
Yes, sir.
The total student loan, this is the one that made me almost fall out the chair, Lavell. The total student loan debt in America is over $1.5 trillion. $1.5 trillion. So you get 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Many of us who are above that age can't even go out and get a loan without going through a whole lot of stuff. But an 18-year-old or 19-year-old can go get a student loan. And they'll let them sign, or their parents sign, for this type of money. That's what's happening to us. It starts out early. We have to think. And that's a whole different episode, like I was talking to you about when we talk about, debt-free degree. And maybe we'll come back on another time, Lavell, and we'll talk about debt-free degree, because I think that's important to help parents understand how to help their children not get into debt issues in college.
Let me say this real quick. I want to make sure people can wrap their head around the number 1.5 trillion. So I think we all know 1,000. We all pretty fairly acquainted with 1,000, right? Then you get into the 100,000, right? So 100,000, if you have that 10 times, then you have 1 million.
1 million.
But 1 million 10 times is not a billion. 1 million 10 times is only 10 million. Then you got to get up to 100 million. Then you got to have that 10 times.
All right, say it, well.
Then a billion 10 times is still only 10 billion. Then you got to get up to 100 billion. And then that 10 times will be a trillion.
There you go.
So trillion is a number that I can't even wrap my head around. I think our national debt is somewhere in the trillions. Like trillion is a number that I can't even fathom that number, but it's a huge number.
It's a huge number. And how can you build generational debt? I know some people that are in their late 50s, early 60s, and they're still paying off student loans.
Wow.
Can you imagine when you're getting to the point when it's almost time for you to retire and you're still paying student loans?
Wow.
So we have to take this extremely serious, and our people have to take it extremely serious, because I'm going to show you some numbers that's coming up that's going to make you even fall out. When we finish this, it's going to make you want to fall out your chair and say, we got to make change happen right now. Right. We got to think about money differently right now. The sense of urgency for our future and our children's future is right now. It's time to make the change. It's time to really think about our money and tell every dollar what to do versus wondering where it went. Because most Americans will retire in poverty. Most will have a monthly income, and get this, of only what they receive from Social Security. And that average is around $1,400.
Wow.
With an annual income of around $16,848. We got to start preparing and planning properly right now, because who wants to retire that way?
Yeah.
What can you really do, and what can you do for your family with that low amount of income coming in?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny, because when you mentioned the acronym that you made, FAT, one of those, and I know you're going to go into it, but one of those is teachable. And I got to give a shout out to my mother. My mother is completely out of debt. She took the Dave Ramsey course, because my whole church took it.
Oh, good.
But my mother was already completely out of debt when she took the course, you know, so, but she took it anyway. But I have to say this, she discouraged me against credit cards so much, but I would not listen.
Okay.
She tried her best to direct me on the path, but I wasn't teachable. I was 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. I got this. I want to do what I want to do. And not now looking back, I'm 45 years old now. If I had listened to her, I never would have I would be completely debt free now. But I didn't. But and I think that's one of the main things is to be teachable. So I want everybody, please listen to what's about to happen on this show. It's gonna hurt to do it.
It's gonna hurt,
but it's going to be. I cannot describe how helpful it's gonna be.
And you're right. In 1968, this is a typical middle class Black household had $6,674 in wealth, compared with $70,786 for the typical middle class white household.
Wow.
So according to the data from historical surveys of consumer finances, that has been adjusted for inflation. That number has been adjusted for inflation. So when we think about that, let's go into 2016. Even though we're in 2020, this data it just gets worse. But in 2016, the typical middle class Black household had $13,024 in wealth versus $149,703 for the medium white household. Wow. That's an even larger gap in percentage terms. So when you think about that, that's a 90% spread difference.
Wow.
90%. We're fighting an uphill battle. We're already in the hole, but a 90% spread difference in our white counterparts.
Wow.
So 1 in 7 white families are millionaires. 1 in 7.
Wow.
1 in 50 African-American families are millionaires. Just look at that. Just meditate on that slide just for a second. That's a telling story. We have work to do, and it's time for us to get serious about not looking like we're wealthy, but becoming wealthy.
Yes, sir.
Because we buy things, honestly, to impress people we don't even like.
Wow.
Right? We have to really think about this differently. And I'm gonna just jump on here before I go to the next slide. Is I want you to think about something. I always ask people in your lifetime, how many vehicles have you owned? Have you actually paid for and had monthly payments for? Because on an average, most people in their lifetime probably have 5 to 6 vehicles in their lifetime. And then what has been the monthly payment for those vehicles? Let's say $350 a month. $350 a month. And most people get a vehicle and they do it for 4 or 5 years. And now you can even do it for 7. And I think, Lavell, we were talking earlier about nobody thinks about the interest, the finance rates.
Yeah.
So what happens anytime, this is one nugget I want you to think about. I don't want you to go out and buy a vehicle because I just think we should be paying cash for it. But don't go out and buy a vehicle. But if you have to, never exceed 36 months. Don't let them talk you into doing anything more than 36 months. And the reason is, see, wealthy people go in and say, how much is that vehicle? We go in and people who are not wealthy go in and say, how much and what's the monthly payment? And how many of us have started out buying our first vehicle and you go into the dealer and they ask you, what do you want your monthly payment to be? And we get excited when the dealer comes back and we say something like, I want my payments to be $170 a month or whatever. They go behind the back room and laugh at you because they're not really having a real discussion. They go behind the back room and they laugh at you. And then they come out and say, I have a sweet deal for you. I was able to get your monthly payments to be $150 a month. And we go, wow, what a great person. They love us. That's my guy. And we refer other people to him. And we never think about it's a 7-year payment.
Wow.
And every year they're charging you for borrowing that money. And if you take the time to do the math, you'll see that you're probably paying for that vehicle 2 to 3 times. Have you ever seen a person that they had bought a car and they were driving the car and the car was tearing up on them, it was breaking down on them, they still had monthly payments to make? Those are the people that actually got caught in a deal like that. You know, before they could even pay the car off, they're still paying and the car's not even running anymore. They got tricked.
Yeah, I remember when you said that, I thought about one of my favorite shows is Martin.
Yeah.
Anybody who watch Martin know Cole was still paying on that Pacer.
Still paying on it.
And he said he made some comment. I can't remember which episode, but he says we made one comment. They was like, "You still paying on that Pacer?" He was like, 30 more payments, and it's all mine.
And that's real. That is real. I mean, everybody on here knows this is real.
Yeah.
See, we're not telling them anything that grandma didn't tell us, right? We're not telling them anything. It's just like we didn't listen. We wanted to do it our own way. And then what we're going to do is, if we don't change our thinking and renew our mind, we're going to teach the next generation to do it the exact same way.
My God.
And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Wow. That's what we're doing. We honestly do this over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay that. I'm not going to let that credit card get up. Oh, give me a higher limit. Give me a higher limit. Oh, after I pay this off, I'm not doing it anymore. But time is passing us by while we're doing this. And then one day you look up and it's time for your kid to go to college and you cannot pay for their college. So then they end up taking student loans. See how this continues to just destroy our culture? It destroys our people that way because we get caught into this slavery. So we got to be careful about that. So I want to talk about 2 different personality traits.
Okay.
People fall into 2 personality traits: nerd or free spirit. So let's see which one you are.
All right.
A nerd is analytical. A nerd worries about finances. They're extremely concerned about the future. They're concerned about their family. They have sleepless nights thinking about finances and what are we going to do for the future for the kids. That's the nerd. So we're clear on the nerd.
Yes, sir.
Now the free spirit. The free spirit usually goes with the flow, right? They always feel that things will work out. They don't sweat what they call the small stuff. Stop getting all upset. We got money. As long as I got a paycheck coming in, you don't need to have, worrying about that kind of stuff. It'll just work itself out. That's a free spirit. Anybody know anybody like that? Is it one of you? That's what you got to think about, because we don't think about finances the same way because we're just in chill mode. So the quickest way to waste money, let's see if anybody does this. It's called impulse shopping. You ever seen a QVC commercial come on and you saw something that you wanted, or you went into a store, you saw this item that you really didn't need, but it was so cool, you wanted it right then. You saw this watch that you wanted, you saw this purse that you wanted, these shoes or whatever it is. And right away, you didn't go in there planning on spending that money, but you spent it. That's called impulse shopping, when you really don't think about what you're doing and you act on something. So I'm going to ask you to do something. Have a rule of thumb. I want you to wait 48 hours before making any impulse purchase shopping any impulse purchases. 48 hours. Why do I want you to do that? I want you to take the time in that 48 hours, ask yourself the question: what won't get done if I spend this money? What won't get done if I spend this money? I want you to take that 48 hours just to think about that. I guarantee you, by taking that 48 hours, you'll change your mind about making that purchase and you'll save that money. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever had this question? Have you ever started out the week with $20? Let's call it 20, 30, 40 bucks. You have $40 in your purse, in your pocket, whatever it was. And then coming toward the end of the week, you look in that purse in your pocket or whatever, and you find out, man, you got a $3 bill or a $5 bill. And you make this statement. And have you ever made this statement? I know I had a 20. Right? We've all been there. I know I had a 20.
Yes, sir.
That means we had no idea of where our money went. So what we want to do and what we teach is understanding where every dollar is going. I ask my members to get a receipt every time you go and make a purchase, so you know exactly. At the end of the week, I want you to add the receipts up and you know exactly what you spent on frivolous things. It's just a good acid test just to make sure that you're being careful about what you're spending money on. I challenge you, just take this when Sunday comes, do Sunday to Sunday, and just get a receipt for everything you purchase, put it in a Ziploc bag, with an ink pen and leave it in your car. And every time you end up making a purchase, get a receipt and put it in a Ziploc bag. Okay. And then at the end of the week, pull it out and total out how much money you spent. And I'm sure it'll surprise you.
Right.
That's a good exercise to do. So let's talk about proper money management. And this is about telling every dollar what to do versus wondering where it went. So part of this process is scheduling what I call financial wellness reviews. I don't want to call it budget meetings because people hate to hear the word budget. They think it means I won't be able to spend any money. And if I get somebody to help me with something like this, they're going to be telling me how to spend my money all the time. No. This is about having everything in front of you where you actually open those bills up. You don't just look at them like, I don't really want to open this up. If I just act like that, if I don't open it, it's invisible. No, you got to open it up. Right. Face that fear head on. But this is about opening the bills up and putting them on a spreadsheet and looking at everything that you have to pay. Because everyone should know, what does it cost you to run your household every month? And I don't want you to estimate. I want you to tell me exactly. It costs me $3,000 to run my household every month. I don't want you to guess about it. And how are you going to be able to do that? You're going to be able to do it by putting all your expenses down, all your debt down, and then keeping track of it and saying, this is the income I have coming in. And then as you start to pay debt, expenses and debt, you start to see income coming out. And then you have to manage your money the proper way. It's not fun. That's why everybody doesn't do it. It's easier just to go spend the money and have it in your head and tell yourself, I think I spend this amount of money, and then be shocked when you look at your checking or savings account, the money's not there. So I want us to think about this a little bit differently and come up with a plan and strategize with a financial wellness review. So here's something that we did with the Ramsey Group. We spoke to 10,000 millionaires. And we asked a question. And Chris Hogan asked this question. What's their greatest financial teaching that they've ever had, whether it be a book or whatever it is? 10,000 millionaires. Now I got a myth breaker for you. Millionaires aren't what you think they are, who you think they are. Most millionaires are accountants, teachers, and engineers. If that's a little bit surprising to you, that's where most millionaires are. That's their occupation. So
they're not. It's not all doctors.
No. And Lavell, the funny thing about it, I have doctors. I have lawyers that I help right now. And you want to find some of the most broke people that you want to look at are those doctors and those lawyers, because they have huge debt, student loans that they have to pay.
Wow.
But here's the problem. When I talk about people take the time to impress people they don't even like. We see them drive around in these nice vehicles, wearing nice clothes and everything like that, because once you become a doctor or a lawyer, you're supposed to look and behave a certain way, right? Everybody expects you to look a certain way. And if you don't look that way, they don't think you're successful. So we have an image to uphold. And people will spend significant amounts of money to look more wealthier than they really are.
Wow.
So be careful keeping up with the Joneses, because the Joneses are broke. Okay. So going back to that question, when we asked them about the greatest teaching financial book or anything that they read, what do you think they said? And some people said, oh, they probably said the Bible, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, something like that. No. They said the story of the tortoise and the hare. Anybody remember that story? That grade school story? The tortoise and the hare. Do you remember who wins the race? The tortoise wins.
Yes, sir.
Because steady and consistent always wins the race.
Wow.
It's not a sprint, not a get rich quick scheme. Like Lavell said when he did the introduction up to this promo, when he did the promo, he said, this is not about a get rich quick scheme at all. This is about being disciplined. This is about being consistent. And this is about being steady for the long haul.
Yes.
Steady and consistent wins the race. Okay.
And it is possible.
It's very possible.
It is possible, and that's why I'm so glad you're here today. I had this question down, and you're actually breaking it down anyway. I wrote down, is being 100% debt free really a reality?
Absolutely. You know, you and me both know millions and millions of people are having debt-free screams every day.
Yes.
You know, I had a young lady that was working with me, and I was so proud. And you asked me this excellent question, man. How does it make you feel when you help somebody? It's exciting.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so oftentimes I feel like I'm more excited for them because I love seeing that smile, because I have been on the phone with folks and we've cried together, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been on the phone talking about how bad it is. And I'm like, I'm your accountability partner. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get away from talking about dollars and cents and let's talk about emotional things. How are you feeling? How's the family doing? You think you're not going to make it. You think you're alone. We've all been there.
Wow.
And then, come full forward a year later or 2 years later, and you see that person having a debt-free scream, and you see all that emotion of, I can do whatever I want to do now. You know, this young lady was in $100,000+ debt, and she did her debt-free scream a month ago.
Wow.
And she's doing what she wants to do now. She has money. And I'll tell you, Lavell, the thing that was surprising, you would think when a person got debt-free that they would just have no problems.
Mm-hmm.
She had a problem being debt-free because she was always a slave to the lender. So what she said to me is, David, I feel unworthy because other people are hurting out there. And when I look at my bank account, it's growing. I don't have any bills to pay. I mean, I don't have any debts to pay. I just got regular bills that I'm paying. But all this money she was paying to bill collectors and paying for debt is now going to her. And she's doing things like investing and doing things for her kids' college futures and taking trips. She feels uncomfortable with that. And that's what happens to people because you're so used to being a slave to the lender that when the money's just coming to you, oftentimes you feel like you're not worthy.
Wow.
I thought that was just really surprising when she told me that story.
Wow. Yeah.
So let's talk about.
And before I just want to say, that's the place where we're trying to get to. So you don't have to feel guilty when you actually do get there. Be comfortable because now you're in a position where you're debt free and you can help others.
Yeah.
And I remember Dave Ramsey told a story about when he him and his wife first saved up an emergency fund, and their van broke down, and they took it to the shop, and the guy said it was going to cost, I don't remember the exact amount, but it was in the thousands. It was like maybe $4,000 or whatever. He said they wrote a check, guy fixed the car, and he said when they pulled out of the service station, when they pulled up to a light, he said they both looked at each other and said, "This is so weird." Yeah. They had the money, they paid it off, and it didn't hurt them.
It was just an inconvenience.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. And that happened with me and my wife also. When we first went through the Dave Ramsey course in 2017, we saved up our emergency fund, and then shortly after my car broke down and I had to pay I think it was like $700 or $800, but we had it.
Yeah. And
it was a relief. I didn't have to scramble. I didn't have to use the credit card. We had that money set aside for that.
Yeah. And Lavell, that's what it's about. That feeling that you have, and it's you get control back of your life. You don't owe anybody. You're doing things because you were disciplined enough and you deserved it. You plan for the future because, Murphy's going to show up, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but Murphy is going to show up. Right. I have a lot of young people that are members, and I told them about Murphy's Law, and they go, who's Murphy? I love when they say, who's Murphy? And then I get a chance to talk about, you ever had this happen? You ever had that? So let's talk about the 4 walls.
Okay.
Because as we get into the baby steps, we're going to talk about things like needs and wants, and what defines a need and what defines a want. Okay. So here's what I want you to think about. The 4 walls these are things that we need to pay attention to. These are needs: food, clothing, shelter, and transportation. Those are the 4 walls that we have to make sure that we manage correctly. Those are needs. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying, oh, you need to just go out and buy new clothing every day. No, I'm talking about you have clothing. But I'm saying make sure you have clothing to wear. But that doesn't mean you're getting permission to go and spend money and go shopping. So everybody calm down on that. Okay. So food, clothing, shelter, and transportation. Now let's talk about the 7 baby steps. So here's what the 7 baby steps are. And this is the process that we use to stay disciplined in our approach to getting out of debt. And we don't skip steps at all.
Yes, sir.
So the first step is, I want you to have an emergency fund of $500 to $1,000. This is your first initial step. $500 to $1,000. If you have an income that's less than $25,000, I want you to have an emergency fund of $500. If you have an income of more than $25,000, I want you to have an emergency fund of $1,000. Because we're starting to wean ourselves away from depending on credit cards. We need to have liquid. And remember, once that money goes into an emergency fund, you do not touch that money unless one of the four walls is being impacted. Those are needs. So again, food, clothing, shelter, and transportation. And if you haven't figured it out already, everything else is a want. Everything else is a want. So baby step one, $500 to $1,000 in your emergency fund.
Now, let me ask you this real quick, because one thing my wife and I did. So what we did is we did it separate but together. So we didn't do $1,000 for the household. We did $1,000 each. So our emergency fund actually had $2,000 in it. Is that okay? Or
what Dave would say to that is, you guys did the ish plan.
Okay.
Kind of the Dave-ish plan.
Okay.
Because remember when we say at the beginning, I say we don't ever skip steps.
Okay.
Once we get married, we become what? One. Right? We become one. Once we get married, we become one. So for our household, $1,000 goes into the emergency fund. So you can take that other $1,000 and you can put it somewhere else, but that 1,000 is what we focus on. It feels good.
We can take that other 1,000 and you put it on your student loan.
You can put it on your student loan. But I get it, because I talk to a lot of married couples, and when they're first starting out and they're getting into it, they're still kind of being one. But it's that insecurity of, I don't know if I want to be giving you all my money over here, because I got my own thing. What if you start messing up? But that's why we have these discussions and we start to grow together. And you're gonna have times like that, but you have to start to learn to trust one another. And when I tell people $500 to $1,000, I can't make it on that. Yes, you can.
All right.
Let's try it. Don't tell me you can't make it, because remember, we're going to have an expense sheet and we're going to budget and we're going to make sure we cover everything we have to take care of. So I'm not saying we're not going to pay our bills. We're going to put $1,000 to the side, and then we're going to address our bills, but we're going to put that emergency fund in place. And we're not going to touch it unless one of the four walls is being impacted. Yes, and you'll be surprised the four walls aren't impacted always like that.
All right.
This will stop you from doing impulse shopping. So let's talk about baby step 2. We're going to use all other money after expenses to attack student loans, the credit cards, collections, vehicle loans, any timeshares. I hope you don't have a timeshare. Nobody has a timeshare, because you'll get me on a rant on that one, but I won't go there now. But we want to make sure we attack all other debt at baby step 2. And the approach we're going to use when you think about the bills, the debt, remember what I talked about earlier, what a debt is. We're going to use what we call a snowball effect. So we're going to go after the lowest debt first, and we're going to work our way up to the highest debt. See, a lot of people have been trained to go after the bigger numbers. Some people are out there saying, oh, no, you need to be going after the bigger number. I'm going to tell you why you don't do that and why it's called a snowball. Have you ever had a debt and say it's a big number and you started applying a bunch of money to it, and you just never really saw a big difference because of interest and everything like that, and eventually you just wanted to give up because you really don't see significant progress when you go after those super large debts? So what we want to do is go after the smaller debts first, because we want to start having success like a snowball, right? A snowball going down the hill and it's picking up, it's getting bigger and bigger. And put that in your mind, it's getting bigger and bigger. So you knock out the small debt and you say, oh, wait a minute, I knocked out that $200 debt. Let's go after the $500 debt.
Yeah.
Then you go, whoa, wait a minute. We just knocked out the $500 debt. Let's go after the $1,000. And you see what happens with the momentum that you start to gain? You start to see you're checking things off and you feel like you're picking up momentum. So we want to use a snowball and go after the smallest debts first and work our way up. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So let's talk a little bit about needing to do things, purchasing things to impress people you don't even like. I want us to get away from, and we do this as a people anyway. I know a lot of people do it, but I'm talking about our people. We like to look good. We like to be sharp. We like to have people. We want to drive the shiniest, the biggest, the coolest cars and everything. Hey, I'm with that. I know where you're coming from. But I'm going to ask you, let's stop doing that.
Yes.
Let's stop operating like we're rich until we're rich. Let's stay in our lane, and let's not try to impress anybody. Impress your bank account. Don't look like you're rich. Let that money go into your bank account and watch your bank account grow.
Yeah.
Be disciplined. Many people went to college for 4 years. You were disciplined enough to go to college for 4 years. And then you hope that you reap the benefits after. Oftentimes, this plan right here, depending on where people are, can be 3 to 4 years for them to get out of debt forever. So do you have a discipline to just slow down and follow a plan and be out of debt forever? That's what it's really about. Because Murphy will show up.
Yes. And, I just interject here real briefly. Whenever I'm watching basketball and you see Bill Gates show up to a Lakers game, I've never seen him come in with a flashy suit. He always has on some blue jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this guy is a billionaire, not millionaire, a billionaire. And he's coming to the game comfortable. He got on some gym shoes that's not the latest Nikes. He just got on some old beat up gym shoes, blue jeans, and a t-shirt. He's not trying to be flashy.
Right. He don't have to. When you know that you have it, you don't have to impress anybody.
Yeah.
I see people going, somebody will ignore them because they have some baggy jeans on or something like that, and those people are millionaires.
Yeah.
I talked to one today, and I laughed as he left because he got into an Impala, a white Impala that was probably 2007 or 8. Wow. But it was nice though. It was clean. But I just sit there and I was thinking, he's driving that 2007 Impala to a home that is spectacular.
Wow.
He has money to burn, but he's not looking to impress anybody. And we have to change that mentality, because I don't care how good you look or what you're driving. When you go home in your private place, what do? We look at those bills and go, how am I going to pay this? Right? I've been there. Look good, went out there, had the flashiest car and everything. And then we come home and I'm having sleepless nights. But then I get up the next morning, I got to look a certain way and make people think that I got it going on. And I really didn't. I was drowning in debt. We got to change that mentality. Stop worrying about what people think, because most of the people that you worry about, you don't even like anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So Murphy will show up in a way when things go wrong. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So you want to be prepared. This is why we build an emergency fund. If something goes wrong, we want to have an emergency fund to fall back on.
Yes.
Then baby step 3. This is building on that emergency fund. And remember, this is after we're out of debt. You have no more debts to pay, no more not mortgage, but no more credit cards, no more car loans, no more collection people calling you, anything like that. You have no debts. You just have liquid now. So now I want you to build on that emergency fund, and I want you to save 3 to 6 months of your household expenses. So David, why do you want me to do that? I'm glad you asked. So this is why. Murphy's going to show up in the way of you lost your job, in the way of an illness takes place and you don't have income coming in the way of something's going to break down and you have to pay a significant amount of money for it. In the old job that I had, when I left out, I had the job of knowing that people were going to lose their jobs and having to let them know. And I would see people in the hallways and they would have no idea that at the end of the month, I was going to be asking them to come into my office because we had to let them go. When I was in the corporate world, I did this all the time. And it's not a good feeling. And I heard the story. Imagine how you would feel if tomorrow, I want you all to think about this. Tomorrow, your boss comes in and says, at the end of the month, we're taking you off the roll. Just meditate that for a second. Meditate on that for a second. What would you do? So if you had 3 to 6 months of your household expenses saved up, you're person A, and person B didn't have anything saved up. What do you think is going to be the difference in how they react to that news? Person B is going to be in panic mode and taking any kind of job they can take.
Yeah.
You're going to have time because you planned and had 3 months of expenses saved. Or you're going to say, hey, honey, we're good for 6 months. We can get by for 6. I'm going to take my time, apply for jobs, get the best job that I can get, but I don't have to rush. That person B is in panic mode. They don't know what they're going to do. So we need to plan for when Murphy shows up. That's why we want to have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up in that emergency fund. And I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
So now we think about, there's a 3B in this step. So let's say now we're done with baby step 3 and we have the 3 to 6 months saved up. Now 3B. 3B is when you start to think about folks who want to have a home and they want to put a down payment down on a home. And I always suggest putting 20% down on the home purchase that you want. So if you want to take a step and do a 3B, you can start saving that 20% toward a down payment for your first home. Some people do that.
Yeah.
So baby step 4, 5, and 6 all go together. So baby step 4 this is where we actually begin retirement planning.
Okay.
Our 401k, getting the IRA set up and things like that. We start to prepare for the future. So Dave always recommends 4 types of mutual funds when you start to invest. And we'll help you along that process to make sure we're getting you in the right plans and everything like that. But here's what I want you to think about. You want to be in 4 different types of mutual funds. Growth, growth and income, aggressive growth, and international. Okay, those are the 4. So again, growth and income, aggressive growth, and international. And that's what Dave recommends. And when we just talk to endorsed local providers, that's what they try to get our clients into when they're starting to build that plan. And we stay consistent with it. We don't deviate away from it because, like I said, we got many people that are millionaires 4 or 5 times over. This plan works. If you know Dave Ramsey, Dave's been rich for a very long time. The plan works. Okay. So when I say 4, 5, and 6 go together, so in baby step 5, you start to plan for your children's college future. This is when we start to save money for the kids' future. The earlier, the better. It's never too early. Lavell's getting ready to have a child coming up. I think you said in September, right, Lavell?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We need to start getting ready to plan. We want to have that in our priority. And you did the right thing because you don't have any student loans.
Yes, sir.
So now you can actually start planning for your child's college future.
Amen.
What a beautiful place to be. You can actually say, I'm going to start planning. And you don't need as much money when they're babies.
Yeah.
Imagine waiting until somebody gets 16, 17 years old and you're just starting to plan. Got news for you, that's too late. We can still do it. So don't get discouraged and say you can't see your child at college. We can still do that. We just have to think about it and strategize about it different. And that's another episode.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then baby step 6, you purchase your first home or you pay off your existing mortgage. That's what that is. And then we move on to baby step 7. This is where you live like nobody else in big capital letters. That means you continue to become everyday millionaires. You're enjoying yourself. You're giving like nobody else. That's where you want to be because now you've mastered 4, 5, and 6. You have that stuff under control and you're not paying anybody. You don't owe anybody. You've knocked out your mortgage. At baby step 7, you don't have a mortgage anymore. Can you imagine not having a mortgage? You have all the extra income and you're going to be sitting there going, what do I do with this money? But remember, we invested at baby step 4. And the plan here is to invest in an area where we're going to get at least a 10% annual return on our investment. So that money's working for you and working for you. When you think about the power of compound interest, and Lavell, I have a spreadsheet that maybe I'll send it to you and you can put it up later. But I have a compound interest spreadsheet that shows at different stages of different ages, and based on the amount of money you're saving, how that money compounds and grows over a period of time. And the earlier you start, if a 20-year-old starts saving $400 or $500 a month, $300 or $400 a month, by the time they get age 50, they'll be millionaires.
Wow.
It doesn't take long. So the earlier you start, the better. And don't worry if you're a little bit older, you say, oh, it's too late for me. No, it's not. It's never too late. It's never too late to start saving because it's better than doing nothing.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So when I think about, I'll go back and say it's small case letters, live like nobody else when we're in baby step 2. That means you're sacrificing, you're doing everything you have to do. You shouldn't be in a restaurant unless you're working there because we don't want to be spending money, right? You heard that, Lavell. You shouldn't be in a restaurant unless you're working there.
Yes, sir.
So we sacrifice at baby step 2 and we live like nobody else. So we don't care about what the Joneses are doing. We have our own plan. But when you get to 7, it's capital, live like nobody else because now all your sacrifice pays off.
Yeah.
So Lavell, we're on my last slide. So I don't know if you got any questions for me before I get into the last closing slide.
No, go ahead. And
Okay.
I do have a couple more questions for you later. And if anyone out there has any questions, you can start to type them in the comments on Facebook. Anyway, I don't know if I see comments on YouTube or not, but you can try. Put the comments in, and if they pop up, then we'll ask Mr. Mosley.
Sounds good. Okay, so my closing message is I want you to remember that hashtag, no wasted days. And this is for you. I mean, we live by it, but I want you to live by it. Don't waste and don't procrastinate anymore. Don't say I'm gonna start saving money up starting next month or a year from now. No. Let's do it today.
Yeah.
Let's change our thinking today. Because every dollar you save is going to put you in a better position in the future, and we can start building generational wealth. So we don't have time to waste it. Don't waste another dime today that you don't spend something that you don't have. Don't impulse shop today. Stop right now. Let's start a new way of thinking. And let's not be that little baby elephant that becomes full grown and they've psyched us in our mind and they got us thinking the way they want us to think. And then we're just broke. Okay, so important things that I want you to remember. It's never too late to change our habits. So no excuses. And like I said, no impulse shopping. We got to think a different way. I want you to schedule your financial wellness reviews, your bi-weekly reviews. If you need help, I'm going to give you a link to get in contact with me today because I love to work with you.
Yes, sir.
Know the difference between a need and a want. We talked about that up front, what a need is. What's a need? The four walls. What are they? Food, clothing, shelter, transportation. Everything else is a want. So I want you to be thinking about that. You can transform your family tree by being debt-free and building generational wealth and having an education around money and what money does for us and that we don't waste money. And start showing your kids right now. Make them think about budgeting. Make them think about not just buying everything, but saving. Mm-hmm. Let them sit at the table when you're working through your spreadsheet and you're talking about saving money. Let them see you doing this so they grow up thinking a different way. Let them see you cut up those credit cards because that's just going to get you in trouble. And I know it's a hard thing to do, but if you get with me, I'm going to make it easier for you. We're going to talk about that and we're going to work on it together. Okay. But we need to get those credit cards cut up. We can't use that. That won't get us out of debt. And then don't fall into the trap of believing you should be and will always be in debt. If you're talking to anybody that's telling you that, run away from them really fast. If you're talking to anybody that tells you need to be keeping a credit card, run away from them fast. If you start looking at it, I want you to go in today, take the time out and look at your APR, your adjusted percentage rate on your credit card. I want you to look at that. And if you're paying anywhere in the upper brackets of double digit numbers, 15, 16%. I talked to a client that didn't even know it the other day that they were paying 36%.
What?
36%. Lavell, they were shocked. We went through the spreadsheet and they found that they were paying 36% on 3 credit cards.
Wow.
That's just giving money to financial institutions. And then don't fall in when I say don't fall into that trap, I want you to remember the tortoise and the hare. Steady and consistent wins the race. And it's an amazing feeling to be debt-free and not having any more burdens, not having any more sleepless nights. It's an amazing feeling to know you have a plan and have a strategy, and that when you wake up and you're talking to your spouse or your accountability partner and you're talking about how are we going to attack this strategy and we're going to stick to this, and you follow a plan and you start to see progress. It's an amazing feeling. So if you're ready, I'm gonna ask you for a few things to be fat. Nobody wants to be fat, right? No, but this is a different kind of fat. This acronym is being faithful, available, and teachable. Because most people may think about this. You'll hear this you'll see this on Facebook or YouTube, and you'll say, I think I'm ready. But if you're not ready to be faithful, available, or teachable, you're not ready yet. And that's okay. Some people are not ready. But just understand you're spending more money. You're leaking money out every day. Money that you do not have. We don't have time to waste money like that. You saw the data that Lavell and I shared earlier. That's real. That is no joke. So you have to be ready. And being ready means faithful, available, and teachable. And we're ready to partner with you. So I think Lavell may put this up, but my website is www.mosley, Mosley, Mosley, Consulting, LLC.com. And I think it's on the screen now. Lavell has it on the screen. So that's the contact information. And if you want to schedule a complimentary consultation, this costs you nothing to just sit down and let's talk about where you are. And I'll sit down with you for an hour and I'll go through where you are. We'll talk about what your goals are and we'll talk about a plan. So if you want to do that, you can go to my website and schedule an appointment. Or if you want to just type in www.calendly, CALENDLY, calendly.com/Mosley Consulting LLC. You can actually schedule an appointment and do a complimentary consultation with me. You can contact me via my office, and my office number is area code 810-626-5200. It's on the screen. My business cell number is area code 810-269-7650. If you want to just contact me on my business cell, I'll answer it. Or you can email me, and the email information is on the screen. So I look forward to talking to you guys. I want to thank Quarantine with Lavell. You know, Lavell, you have a fantastic show. And I just thank you for being so gracious to have me on and just to give me an opportunity to kind of like talk my head off a little bit and just have this quiet, you know, fireside chat, as if we want to call it that. You know, we just talk about it. So I just thank you for the blessing of being invited. I think you're an amazing host, Lavell. And anytime you want me to come back, if we want to talk about debt-free degree, I'm here for you.
Definitely.
All right, Lavell, that's all I got.
No, I appreciate it. You were talking about investing, and I want to read something out of the Dave Ramsey book here, and I just want you to just briefly touch on it, and we're going to let the people go. But he gives the example of the story of Jack and Blake. So you have a young man named Jack who's 21 years old. So he puts $2,400 a year, which is only $200 a month, up into a fund that's gaining compound interest. He does that for 9 years, from the age of 21 to 29. Then he does not put another dime in. You have another guy named Blake who doesn't do anything from 21 to 29, but he starts at the age of 30. He puts $2,400 a year in from the age of 30 for 38 years.
38 years.
So he's 67.
Mm-hmm.
Blake, who started at the age of 30 and put $2,400 a year in all the way up to the age of 67, invested a total of $91,200. Wow. And his return is $1.4 million.
I didn't hear that. Say that number again. I didn't hear that. Say that number again.
$1.4 million. Good job, Blake. But guess what? The kid, Jack, who started at 21 and only put $2,400 in for 9 years and then stopped and didn't put another dime in, he invested $21,600 as opposed to the 91, $70,000 less. And he ended up, when he was 67, his return was $2.5 million.
The power of compound interest.
This kid started at 21, and from the age of 21 to 30, he put in $200 a month, and he didn't put another dime in. He ended up putting in $21,000 and ended up getting $2.5 million.
Yeah.
But the other guy started at age 30, put that same amount in, $200 a month, for 38 years, ended up putting in $91,000, and he only got $1.4 million.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like if you start early. So if there are young people out there watching the show and listening in, please take this and run with it. But also, I want to encourage the older people out there. So, Mr. Mosley, if you can just talk to the older people that's like, well, I didn't start when I'm 40 now, I'm 50, I'm 60 now. Yeah. What can I do? Is it too late for them? Do we just?
It's never too late. So, hey, folks, for all of us, the elderly people, older folks that come in, it's never too late.
Yes, sir.
Remember, steady and consistent wins the race. So, with the power of compound interest, even in that case that Lavell just talked about, the older guy, he still has $1.4 million. So if we start late, let's say we start late in our late 50s or whatever, But with the power of compound interest, of course you got to put a little bit more money in if you're going to start investing in everything. But you're going to be so much further ahead. You know, I've seen people that reach a number of $200,000. So if I'm in my late 60s and I can get $200,000, I'm going to say it was worth it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So if I can get $60,000, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. So it's never too late, because by being smart with your money and saying, I'm going to make sure I tell every dollar what to do and where to go, mm-hmm. you can actually build wealth.
All right. All right, sir. So I see my mother is actually watching, and she asks a question here. Let's read what she says. She says, I'm in an investment plan through my job, but with the economy being somewhat unstable, I moved it from moderately aggressive to a guaranteed fixed income, which is not making me any money, but I'm not losing any money. Do you think that is a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's always what I liked about this whole thing is your mom's watching her money. You know, she's watching her money. And I wouldn't be afraid, because one thing about the stock market, though, the stock market goes up and down. But if you look at the history of the stock market does well. So it's going to bounce back. The stock market will be a bounce back. So what I always say is, yeah, it's okay to be in the guaranteed fix, but don't be afraid to go back to the plan that you had and be patient with that plan. Remember, steady and consistent, right? This is a marathon. So do not be afraid to go back to the plan that you had and just kind of, wait it out. This is not a marathon. But where you are right now, you feel comfortable with that. But I would say just don't be fearful about going with your plan, and just keeping an eye on it and just trusting and waiting it out.
All right. Yes, sir. All right. I don't have any other questions, Miss Cheryl. Edgerton said, debt-free, I am with you.
All right, Cheryl.
Yes, that is awesome. That is awesome. So if anyone has any quick questions, type them real quick, because I'm about to let him go. But I do want to put his information back up. You can contact him at Mosley Consulting. The phone number is 810-626-5200. You can email him at dmosley@mosleyconsultingllc.net. And you can also join his Facebook page. If you're on Facebook right now, as soon as this ends, just put in the @sign Mosley Consulting. You will see Mosley Consulting pop up. Follow him on there. You should be able to reach him on there as well. And his website is www.mosleyconsultingllc.com. And again, he said you can schedule a complimentary consultation. Mr. Mosley, thank you so much for offering that. That is awesome. And you all can go. You can do it you can go to his website, or you can go to Calendly, which is CALENDLY.com/Mosley Consulting LLC, to make sure that you can get that done. My mother, she said, great teaching. Thank you so much. And I have to echo her words, Mr. Mosley. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother Neil. God bless you.
Yes. Yeah, I had a question. Describe the feeling you have when you help people get out of debt. You talked about that already, and how much.
It's right here. It's right here.
Right. Exactly.
That's the feeling I have.
Exactly. And my only last question was, how would it free up Black people to be able to be completely out of debt? And you kind of touched on that. We can help our children prepare for college. But if there's anything else you want to say about just kind of freeing ourselves up as a people, how, if you want to just talk about that for a second, and then we'll just kind of end there.
So Lavell, what I think about there is, as a people, and I like what you said. I mean, our people, we need to get to a point where we think about, even when some of us feel like, oh man, I wish I would have done this. It's too late for me. No, it's not. We've already talked about it's not too late. But what you can do now is start to teach differently, right? And create a legacy for the future, for building generational wealth for your kids. Lavell just showed you a chart. He just shared some information of a young person that's starting early. That young person is starting early investing. That's the best thing you can do for your kids, is make sure they have no debt. To talk to them about money and make sure they don't have a credit card. Get them thinking that we don't need a credit. Our family does not operate with a credit card. The best gift I could give to my daughters is, if I told my daughters right now, to get a credit card, they laugh me out of the place because they do absolutely don't believe in a credit card because they've been hearing Dad talk about it so long. They've been watching us do bills and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and be an example. And that's what we have to do, is be an example for our kids. Don't be afraid to cut those cards up. If you need an accountability partner, call me. I'll talk you through it. I'll be holding your hand all the way. We can do this.
Yes, we can. Wow. You know what? I cannot even describe how much of an honor it is to have you on the show, sir, and to teach us and to help us. I'm going to make sure that this episode is on my website, kneeldownproductions.com. You'll be able to go there, and I'm going to keep this episode up because I think this is something that definitely needs to be heard and to be taught. And I appreciate you, sir.
The only thing I would say, Brother Lavell, is folks, subscribe to Lavell's, YouTube channel. Subscribe, because I've looked at it. I'm following now. I'm a subscriber. Wow. And I enjoy looking at the stuff that you're putting in. The content is powerful.
Wow.
And everybody out there, subscribe to this YouTube channel. You're missing a treat. This is about building a legacy, and Lavell is doing it for us.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, I'm going to put Mr. Mosley's information back up to make sure that everyone gets that information. So please make sure that you call Mr. Mosley. The phone number and the website. Now, you can make sure that you reach out to him on Facebook or via his website to make absolutely positively sure that you get that free consultation. Go to his website, mosleyconsultingllc.com or calendly.com/Mosley Consulting LLC. His hashtag is no wasted days. We do not want to waste time. God has blessed us with time. The word of God in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 tells us that there is a time for everything. So God does not believe in us wasting time. So please make sure that you call Mr. Mosley and get that information. I'm going to put his information back up in 1 second. I do have an announcement that I want to put up. My pastor, Apostle Diane Washington, is hosting a reopening and resources for churches and small businesses symposium next week on Tuesday at 3 p.m. It's going to be live on Facebook and on Zoom, and you can go to the church's the church's Facebook page, which is Trinity Deliverance Church. If you put in the @ TDC Vision Center, @TDC Vision Center, you can get this information, or Trinity Deliverance Church page. You can get this information, but she's going to have Dr. Shirley Clark, Dr. Deborah Glass, and others on talking about the process of reopening and getting resources for your church and for small businesses. That's going to be on Tuesday, July the 21st. That's next Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. Again, my guest tonight was Mr. David Mosley from Mosley Consulting. The phone number there is 810-626-5200. You can email him at dmosley@mosleyconsultingllc.net. You can find him on Facebook at Mosley Consulting, and his website again is mosleyconsultingllc.com, and you can schedule that free consultation. Free consultation. He is being very gracious. This is his business. This is what he does. So I want to make sure that you sign up for that free consultation. It is going to help you in the long run. Why do we keep doing things over and over and over again when we're not and not getting anything out of it? Let's make sure we get something out of it. His information will be posted on my website as well. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the show. Next week, we're going to be talking to my buddy, John Jones from J.C. Jones Boot Camp about a very, very scary topic, health and wellness. I don't know about you, but during the course of this quarantine, I've gained a few pounds. It's almost, if me and my wife standing next to each other, you can't tell which one is pregnant. So, I need to make sure I hear what John is saying next week. So please make sure that you join us next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. where I'll be talking to John Jones from J.C. Jones Bootcamp. Please share this. Go back, watch it again. Write down the notes. Get this information that Mr. Mosley was so gracious in blessing us with. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you all, and we're praying for you. God bless you.